Hi there, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my Ficus benjamina. This is a fusion ficus project that's often called Franken-ficus. Several years ago, this tree had a nice canopy on top, but then one winter, on a record cold day, the corner of my plant room got too cold and the top of the tree froze and almost all the branches died. From one of the living branches, I took this cutting and rooted it, and then I planted it over top of the old stump, which was still alive. It still had this branch coming up the side here. And I've trained the roots to grow down along the trunk to create a new top on the tree. In order to get the roots from the cutting to grip the old trunk, I've just been letting the top of the tree grow and grow for the last couple of years. So it's way taller than I eventually want the height of the tree. I probably want the tree to be about this high, not way up here. So today I'm going to be pruning the tree back in size. The roots are strong enough that for the first time I can actually start working on the top of the tree again. When I'm developing a bonsai tree, I try and work on the roots first, then develop the trunk, and finally the branches. So this tree is at the stage where I can start to work on the branches. I've had a few people ask me, why am I not repotting my outdoor trees? Well, the answer is the weather. It's been about -7 and -8 at nights, and it only gets up to about 1 or 2 degrees in the daytime here. So it's still too cold to do any repotting outdoors. It's time now to start working on the ficus here in the Bonsai Zone. I'm going to start by removing the plastic wrap around the base of the tree. That was left on so all these aerial roots could continue growing in a nice moist environment. So I'll remove all the stones from the bottom here. That was holding the plastic in place. And I can start to unwrap the plastic. There's a few aerial roots growing on the plastic that's kind of holding it in place even. But we'll get it off. I tried to mist underneath the plastic as often as I could to keep the humidity in here. I'm just going to cut away some of this longer pieces of plastic. There we are. Lots of aerial roots forming. The roots are a bit of a tangled mess, so I'm going to come in with my root rake and just try and sort them out a bit. I want all my major roots going almost straight down into the ground. I don't want them all tangled and crossing and that. That looks okay for smaller roots, but okay, I'm going to give this a misting now just to keep all those roots nice and moist. The soil was a little dry at the bottom here, so obviously my top watering or misting didn't really get much moisture down to the bottom of the roots here, so I'm going to leave the plastic off now. So this is just how it's going to be from now on, and I'm sure I'll develop more aerial roots. It's nice and humid here in the plant room. As I've been growing the top of this tree, all the vigor has been shooting straight up to the growing tips, and some of the lower branches have gotten weak and died off. So it'll be good to cut the tree back and start developing some of these lower branches again. Some ficus trees react really well to hard pruning. If you're to cut a branch off here, you get all kinds of new shoots sprouting out just below the cut point. The Ficus benjamina though, they're a little more fussy. You've got to kind of gradually chase the foliage down in height, always leaving green leaves on your branches. Otherwise the branch could just totally die off. I will be doing some fairly major reduction of this tree today, but I'll always leave some healthy green foliage on the branches. That'll prevent the branch from dying back. I'm going to use my hand and place it in front of the tree to see the kind of height I want to prune the tree back to today. I'm thinking somewhere about here. Yeah, I think that'll do. So probably keeping this height, and everything above it will be removed. I've got a branch here I can probably keep, some here. Yeah, so some fairly major reduction in the upper canopy. When I'm pruning this tree, I'm looking for nice flowing lines that go from the trunk and sweep up into the upper canopy. I don't want abrupt changes in direction or sharp corners on my branches or trunks. I want them all smooth and flowing. As I'm pruning the tree, I won't be saving the cuttings. It's unlikely they would root here in the plant room in early spring. If I was pruning this tree midsummer, I could just take all these cuttings and put them in a pot of soil, and most of them would root. It's time to start pruning. So here I go. I'm going to prune it a little higher at first, and if I want to reduce it further, I can. So there's the first branch pruned off. Some of these branches don't have any good foliage down lower, so I'll probably have to leave them until they get stronger. There's a major trunk here I can take off, right here. Get in here. There we go. I'm going to take this trunk off here. One branch there, one here. I'll take this one off here. This one off here. And this one here. I'm going to take this one off. It's interfering with this branch. So I'm just going to reduce that. I'm going to take this one off here. Reduce it further. This branch has two almost vertical trunks coming up, and I don't think I need both of them. This one fans out the nicest. It kind of flows out from the center of the tree, and this one just goes absolutely vertical, and I think I can remove that whole trunk there. So I'll do that. So here I go. I still have some areas that are too high on the tree, so I'm going to reduce those further. So I'll have to look for spots where I can prune. For instance, here I can remove this branch here. This back one needs reducing. There's also a vertical trunk here. I've got two nice branches down below, so I think I can take that entire trunk off there. So I'll do that. Like that. That gets the height down at the back. I can reduce this foliage down more. That's getting the height of the tree down now. I don't think I can go much lower. Here's a shot of all the foliage I've removed. It's quite a bit, but I still have some nice healthy green foliage on the tree, and the tree will just continue to grow and start filling in again. I'm standing back now, looking at the overall design of the tree, looking at the trunks, the branches, to see where I can develop this tree further in the future. I've been studying the tree, and I think this branch line kind of spoils the design of the tree. The trunk kind of flows up, and this branch goes straight up. It would look better, I think, cut off down to here, and then develop these up into the canopy. So I'm going to cut that off quite a bit shorter, right down to here. Like that. I think that'll improve the trunk line of the tree. In this area on the tree, I've got a branch that's kind of crossing and doesn't look very good there, so I'm going to take that off. I also have 3 branches coming from one spot here, so I'm going to take this inner one off that's crossing in front of the design. So I'll come in here and remove that one. I can see reducing this further eventually, maybe as these grow and strengthen up. There's a lot of vertical trunks happening with this tree, which, you know, it'd be nice if they had a little more movement to them. So we'll work on that in the future. I'll be doing lots more work to this tree in the future, but it is exciting to be able to finally start working on the design of the tree again. It has a lot of trunks that I want to correct so they all flow up nicely from the root base into the canopy. But you can't do everything at once, so I think this is all I'm going to do for today. So I'll give you one final view of the tree, and then we'll get to some updates. Hopefully the next time we look at this tree, it'll have lots of foliage up top and look more like a mature ficus tree. At our last meeting of the Kitchener-Waterloo Bonsai Society, I did a demo where I repotted my Ficus Microcarpa, the fancy one. It was a very busy night repotting this tree at the demo, and I didn't get any time to take any video, but Hong took some pictures. I'll show you those. I was able to correct some of the roots on this side. I was able to move them from crossing in front of the tree here and swing them out around to the side of the tree. So I fixed a lot of roots in that area. There's still a few more that I could possibly remove in future. Maybe this one, or reposition it again. So yeah, it's a never-ending thing working on roots. You do little steps at a time, and over the years they build up to a really nice root base. You'll notice with the overall styling of this tree is that the canopy is getting higher on the tree. And I'm doing that on purpose. I want a nice flow line from the roots coming up the trunks and curving out into the canopy. So I want it nice, smooth and flowing. Before, the canopy was quite low and the roots came up and then it had a mushroom type canopy on top. There's no flow lines or trunk lines. I also want to keep the root base almost separate from the trunk, so I have a root flare, trunks, and then forming into the canopy. I don't want the roots coming up and then the canopy sort of sitting on top of the roots. I want that distinct trunk lines. The trunks are very thin at the moment, but I'm hoping as they develop in the future, they thicken up and start fusing together to create a really nice, interesting trunk line to the tree. My next update is to my acacia trees. These trees were grown from a seed. In my last video, I showed you the foliage coming in after I pruned them in fall, and now it's just continued to grow. Today I'll be pruning back all these long shoots to get the trees more compact and get more branching. I'll just be reducing the branches down to the first pair of leaves, like that. And this one down to here. When you're pruning these acacia trees, you have to be really careful because they have really sharp thorns on them. So these trees, I will be repotting them in midsummer this year. I'll be doing some more root pruning on them. A lot of these trees are starting to get branches on them now. So instead of just being a stick or a seedling, they're starting to develop a bit of a canopy. The eventual style for these trees will be the flat top acacias like you see in Africa. There's one tree at the back here that's almost parallel to the ground. It was on an angle, and then as it grew, the foliage got even heavier and it kind of tipped over. So it does have a new shoot coming straight up from the trunk here, but I think I might try and get that more vertical again. Yeah, I'll try and put a rock or something to prop it up so it grows a little more straight. I've lifted the tree up and I put this rock here to kind of support the trunk so the tree grows in a more vertical fashion. Now I can prune back the foliage on it and get it looking more like a regular tree. I finished pruning the acacia forest down in height. I had to add a few more rocks to straighten up a few more trees that had tilted over from the weight of the foliage on top. So they don't look very green right now because these are the old leaves that were kind of dying off anyway. All the fresh green foliage was up top. So I expect them to green up again in the next few weeks and look really good again. Some of the trunks are getting quite thick on these trees. Only been a couple of years since I planted them. So I think, in the next 10 years or so, I think these trees will be quite nicely developed. My last update today is just to show you my ficuses that are planted in the 3D printed pots. This is my tiger bark ficus, and this is my ginseng Ficus microcarpa. The moss is greened up nicely, and the leaves are starting to come out on the tiger bark ficus. The ginseng Ficus microcarpa is also doing well. The leaves are starting to come out. The moss is greened up, and where I carved the roots, it's gone a bit discolored so it doesn't look so obvious anymore. The tree looks really healthy. New buds coming out everywhere on it. So I think it'll also need some pruning in probably a month or so. I still have lots of work to do inside on my tropical trees, so I don't really mind that it's cold and snowy outside. Thanks for watching today. I'm Nigel Saunders, here in the Bonsai Zone.